Hello and welcome to our channel. My name's Jade and this is Keeping Up with the Kennys. On our channel we talk about personal finance, personal development, frugal living, and our debt-free life. If any of those things sound interesting to you, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below as well as the notification bell so that you get notified anytime that we post new videos. Today we're just going to talk about money, raises, and all of that jazz because I just navigated kind of how to ask for money when you're applying for a job. And so I think that it's something that's a little bit like faux pas and people don't want to talk about it, but then that leads to people not knowing how to properly ask for raises, properly ask for the money that they are worth when they apply for a job. They think that this is what they offered, so this must be what I'm supposed to make. And that's not necessarily the case because I just had that happen to me where I was offered something that I felt like I was worth more. And so I said it, and then I got more. At my work, there is an ICU differential, and what that means is that us nurses in the ICU get paid more than floor nurses because we have people critically ill in our hands that we are practically saving all day, every day. We work with machinery that most people have never heard of. Most people didn't know what an ECMO circuit was until COVID was a thing. And, it's a high stress environment that we are compensated for. So you get that after working in the ICU for 2 years. So I hit my 2-year mark in the ICU in April. And because before that I worked on what would be an ICU in any other hospital in St. Louis, but for whatever reason, and my hospital doesn't consider it that because the doors aren't glass and you can't see into the room to actually monitor your patient 24/7, and that is what distinguishes an ICU room versus a floor at my hospital. So our patients had wooden doors with a window in them, but they weren't full glass windows. So even though they had the same monitoring and we're on some of the same exact medications, all that stuff, we weren't paid. Oh, the pond started. We weren't paid the same rate because I was on that other floor. So in other words, it took me an extra year to get that little tiny raise, right? It wasn't a little tiny raise. It was a pretty significant raise. $5.50 raise. But I was lucky enough to get that April 11th. And then I was told that the job that I had applied for was opening at the end of April. So I had just gotten that raise when I applied for my new position. And that gave me a little bit of leverage that I wouldn't have had otherwise, which was awesome. When I was on the phone with the recruiter, she asked what I would like to make for my salary in this position. And I said what I make now. Because she kept going back to, well, that's with differentials you make that. She was talking about the ICU differential, right? And I said, correct. I went, but that differential, I said, is paying me for that knowledge that I have. And I said, and I think that if this job wants me to have that knowledge, that I should still be compensated for it, even though it will be in a different way that I'm using it. And so they came back with their offer for my pay, and it was $3,000 less than what my ICU pay was. And I was okay with it. I wasn't okay with it at first. So I told Matt, I was like, I really want to be like, if you're going to pay me that, then why wouldn't you just pay me the whole amount, right? And I told Matt, I was like, what do? I sat with him, we talked about it, and he just looked at me and he goes, this job, you don't have to clean up poop anymore. And I was like, it's true. He goes, this job, you can make a pot of coffee and start up your laptop and be in the office. And I was like, true. He goes, you can do laundry and other things during the day while you're working. I was like, true. Because you can, Matt's always the rational one. I appreciate that about him when we're talking about things, because I'm like, they need to pay me all the money or I'm not doing it, right? And he was like, this job has so many other perks that aren't monetary, and he goes that you just have to decide if all of those perks outweigh $3,000. So I decided that that was worth $3,000 to me, right? So I accepted it. But this is to talk about the fact that you need to stick up for yourself when you are applying for jobs. And you need to have a reason as to why you're worth what you're asking for, right? Because it's a company. At the end of the day, even a hospital is a company, and they are doing what's best for their bottom dollar. And you have to prove to anybody and everybody, unless you are your own boss, you have to prove that you are worth what you're asking for. And that's why I came at it as, instead of,
well, I get paid this in the ICU, so I want to make this.
I don't think that that would have gone anywhere. But the fact that I had been reached out to because this was a cardiac specific abstractor job, and I use that to my advantage. And and there'll be something that you can use to your advantage when you're applying for jobs. My dad is in the process of applying for new positions too, and he knows his worth, and he is not willing to accept jobs that aren't going to pay him for 35 years of experience of, working with computers. Like, he's done it for a long time, and he deserves to make more than somebody who just came out of college. And I deserved, with the knowledge base that I had, to be paid for it. And so I wanted to make this video because I think that, one, I just went through it, but I also think that so many people are scared. They're like, well, maybe they'll say no to me in general, and you might lose out on jobs. But that wasn't the job for you anyways. If they weren't going to pay you what you're worth, then that's not the job for you. That's not the job that's going to fill you, because we all work to live outside of work. Most of us work jobs to then pay for the life that we live outside of work. And so you have to be willing to set your foot down on certain things. But you also have to do it in a way that you show you're providing value, and that you show that you are worthy, because a company needs to know that. And I think that hopefully this video has kind of helped you see how in a short period of time I ended up at the end of all of this with my new job versus my old job making about $15,000 more a year. And that doesn't include the $9,000 that I was unpaid for my trip to and from work and my walk into work, because I walked about a quarter mile from my parking garage into my unit. And so that's another $9,000. So we're talking about $25,000 difference for this job versus my old job. Part of that isn't actually what I'm receiving, but it's what I'm receiving as far as quality of life. I think that wraps up this video. I hope that at least it was somewhat educational for you, and that you learned a little bit about navigating the whole what you're worth, asking for what you're worth, being able to back it up with some facts, and then also letting things play out how they need to. Maybe you stay in the job that you're at a little bit longer so that you're vested in your 401k so that you can take that money with you. And maybe you don't want to do that, but in the long run, that was extra free money that you got after working there for however long, 5 years normally. So it's definitely things like that you need to think about, and you need to ask about when those are all parts of your job that are part of your benefits, that they're not monetary. But if you get a 4% match here, but then over here you get a 9 to 10% match on your 401k, although you're not getting paid more by that company, you are, because if you're putting in money into your 401k, you're getting way more bang for your buck over here than you are over here. All right, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.